Ja, wir sind jetzt ein paar Minuten später. Nichtsdestotrotz einen wunderschönen guten Abend. Es freut mich, dass wieder so viele Coaches dabei sind für den heutigen oder für die heutige International Clinic mit Coach Cody Baethke, aktueller DC am Co-College in Iowa. Und Coach Baethke wird heute über Techniques and Drills sprechen, um Turnovers in der Defense zu kreieren. Ich denke, das ist ein Punkt, von dem eigentlich jeder immer wieder spricht. Aber wenn ich das von meiner Seite betrachte, ist es etwas, was man nicht immer wieder ins Training implementiert. Und daher glaube ich, sind da ein paar Ideen ganz gut. Wie schafft man das eigentlich regelmäßig, Turnovers in den Blick zu richten oder in den Blick zu setzen? Und da werden wir jetzt den Vortrag von Coach Baethke hören. So, Coach, the stage is yours. I will shut down my screen sharing, and you're on.
All right, let's see if I get this up here. There we go. We got that up, or you can see it now, Coach?
Yes, we can tease it.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go through here. With some of these drills, guys, unfortunately, I realized this yesterday, we don't have the actual drill tape of us doing them. We had some huddle issues, our video thing, and so we had deleted them. I was going to recopy all of them in the spring. But I'm going to talk through them. I got a whiteboard behind me. I can draw stuff up. I got a football here sitting next to, so I can talk through some of those points. And then I was able to find clips, game clips, where a lot of this stuff was in there. So we can kind of work through that part of it. But just so we're aware on that. This is all my contact information here. If you reach out to, I can always give you my cell phone as well. But any of the stuff we do, I'm an open book. I've gotten a lot of stuff from other people. I don't think I'm a genius by any means. So I'll share what I do have, and hopefully you can get something out of it and help your team out to be better. But so I think the first part for us is something that I think you have to be able to talk about. You have to make it a priority of getting, and we call it takeaways because we want our guys to have the mindset that we're going to take the ball away. I don't know if it has that much of an impact, but it's something there. I have a minor in psychology, and so try to do some wordplay there to kind of keep it in our guys' heads. But I do think if you don't talk about it, you can't think that they're going to just think it's important. And so you kind of get what you preach about, and so that's really important for us. And then I usually show these guys, our guys, the stats here. Now this is from 2015, so it's a little bit older as the most recent one I could find. There's one in 2017, but it was kind of hard to understand a little bit with how they were doing it. But, being +2 in your turnover margin, and all of a sudden your winning percentage is around 85%. And you guys can kind of see that difference, +1, and now it's 70%. If you're even, it's 50. -1, it's 32%. And so what I tell our guys is be +2. I go through every year and look at our Division III, where everybody's at. And the top 10 teams averaged like 0.7 a game to like 1.1. So we're saying, man, even if our offense is the best in the country at protecting the football, we are going to turn the ball over at some point. So we have to think then in our mind, we have to create 3 turnovers, 3 takeaways every game. And so that's a really important part that we stress to our guys. And it's something too that then on game days they can count that. So we get done, we get 1, and we're coming off the field like, hey, we got to get another 1. Hey, we got 2, we got to get 3, we got to get, just kind of keeping that going. And then another thing too is we let our players kind of set the goals on some of that stuff as well, to where we can track it. So I kind of talk about being able to track that, but I let our players set a lot of our goals. Now, obviously I work with college kids, so depending on the age of the group you're working with, you may have to have a little more, ownership on some of those as a coach. But I think for us, we can let our guys set some of those goals. And so, going into it, we've talked to our guys for this upcoming year, and they want to average 3.5. So obviously being able to get 4 in games and things like that, to where we can get to that point. But that's what our goal will be next year, is to get 3.5. And we haven't ever quite gotten to 3, so it might be a little to average out anyways at 3. So we'll see kind of what happens. But I like that our guys are setting the bar high, because I think if you set it low and you achieve it, who cares? Versus if you set it high, let's say we don't get 3.5, but we do get 3. Well, that's still going to be pretty dang good. Right. And so then you got to practice it. And so we do quite a few circuits. So we will do a circuit every day or every week at least once. And then we will also do a period each week. And usually we do our takeaway circuit twice. So Thursdays we don't practice in full pads. So we practice Tuesday in helmets and shoulder pads. That's usually when we do a takeaway circuit. And then on Wednesday we will do our tackle circuit. We're in full pads. On Thursday we're in just helmets. And so we will do another takeaway part during there where we have quite a few drills that we don't need to have pads on to do. In fact, honestly, most of our takeaway drills, we don't have to have them on there. You can do it in a controlled way that helps you out. And so that's important for us as we kind of work ourselves through that. But then in our circuits, we make them specific to each position. So, and you'll see as we go through some of our drills, some of them, it's the same concept of what we're trying to accomplish with like our linebackers and our defensive backs, but we're going to tweak it a little bit more to where it makes more sense and puts our DBs in positions that they're actually going to be in on Saturdays, or same thing with our D line. I mean, my own personal feeling is that our D line doesn't need to catch footballs a whole heck of a lot. The chances of them actually getting a ball thrown straight to them is pretty minimal, but let's work on some different stuff. And every once in a while we let them do a tip drill because they like it and have a little bit of fun with it. But we try to mix it up to what we're doing with that. And then, we also have a period usually on Wednesday where we'll have about a 3 to 5 minute period where we're going to do the position takeaway on their own. So we'll be doing our individual practice, and I'll say, hey, defense, we're going to take away with your position. And so you can make it very specific again to that, or something that, hey, man, we're struggling with, or we feel, this upcoming opponent, maybe they don't hang on to the ball, so we're going to work a little more of our strip technique and stuff like that. But that's really important for us to do. I also think that you can add a lot of this stuff to the end of your drills. So for us, like I coach our DBs as well. So we will also do a lot of work where maybe we're doing our transitions, so our breaks and things like that. Well, we're going to throw a football in there as well. Just to get them catching that, so to always be thinking about, finish with that. We'll do the same thing with, sometimes we'll do pass rush stuff with our D line, and our coach will just toss the ball out and they'll work on scooping it up, or, just covering it up, things like that to where we can go. And then keep track of it during the day. And this is something that we do, and our guys actually really like it. So the NCAA came out with some new rules in terms of telling us that they strongly recommend us not to do any conditioning for punitive measures. So in terms of if guys are late or things like that. So what we do is we just start with our conditioning, and we say, hey, we're going to run 540s at the end of practice. But every takeaway we get, we're going to take one away. Right? And those numbers change based off of how many team periods we have and things like that. But every period counts. So we'll do some one-on-one periods where it's, just our DBs, our wide receivers, our quarterbacks just going. And if we get a pick, that counts. Right? If we're doing inside run period and we force a fumble, that counts. Right? And so we do that stuff. In fact, we got to the point where our guys would be counted down. And I mean, there was one day I actually forgot we'd only gotten 4 or whatever the number was. We were 1 less. And our guys were like, hey, coach, we got a 40. We didn't get enough takeaways today. And so it's just in those guys' minds all the time. Like, that's what we got to do. One thing we started to do was count sacks as a half of one, because our D-line was getting mad that they didn't have as many opportunities. And so that was a fun way for them to still be able to be involved with that part of it as well. Okay. And then the other part of it is, making sure you grade it and you reward it. We talked about the conditioning with it there. Now, one thing we do is I put takeaway. We should add to the total count for missed opportunities. So if we drop interceptions, that'll count. So, let's say we had 4 takeaways, but we dropped 1. Well, now we're down to 3. So keeping track of that. We keep track of our rake attempts. So when we're raking at the ball and the ball carrier to get rid of that thing, that's important, and we will call our players out. If we see it in the middle of practice, man, I'll yell, hey, so-and-so, great job. I saw that rake at the attempt of a football. Now you got to be smart, I think, with some of this stuff and talk to them about, twisting guys. And if you're going to the ground, you got to let go. You get that one opportunity, because to be honest, that's the most part what happens in games anyways. but allowed to do that. And then we show our clips. It's the first thing we do of takeaways when we meet as a defense. So on Sundays after game days, we meet and we watch all of our takeaways as a team. All right. And then those guys get helmet stickers. We do helmet stickers for players of the games and things like that. Every guy who gets a takeaway gets a helmet sticker. Same thing. If you force the fumble, you get it. If one of our D linemen tips the ball and a DB picks it after that, our D lineman also gets one because he made a good play on that. And so just keeping track of that. Same thing. Then we'll also track how many times, hey, this would have been a great opportunity for you to rake at the ball and you didn't do it. And so we show those guys and kind of teach them up, hey, these are great opportunities to go and get that. So then some other ideas, some things I've done at some other places or I've heard other people do that I do like, the loose change one. So this one is anytime there's a ball on the ground and it stays in the field of play. So even in Skelly and they throw an incomplete pass, we're going to get the ball. And then you can do it by players. So, X person had so many more ones. You can also do it by positions. Hey, this is the top D lineman. This was the top one. I know at some places they'll actually keep track of it. And then at so many times throughout the year, the winner of that will get a free T-shirt, or depending on what some of the rules are by NCAA and that kind of stuff, you got to follow some of those for us, but you can give them some things, whether it's eating first at a team meal or things kind of along those lines. And so that's something that's cool. You can do the same thing with, your total winners. They get something where sometimes we go and do different things in the off season, whether that's going to watch. We actually have a minor league hockey team that we'll go and watch usually. And they get first pick at the seat because we just kind of get a big area. And so usually all those guys are the first guys sitting down at the glass having fun. And so you kind of reward them with little things like that. And then I think some other factors in terms of being able to create takeaways. You got to be able to put some pressure on the offense. You got to get them into some negative positions. So you've got to be able to get some tackles for some losses or some sacks. Offenses, and they can get really creative, and a lot of the times they kind of have the upper hand in terms of the situation that they're in. So you want to get them into some third and longs or some fourth down situations or those types of things where the pressure's kind of back on them more than it is on us defensive guys. But then also disguise. I didn't put that in there. I should have had that on there, but disguise. So we are almost always look like we are a too high shell with our safeties, and we run a lot of zone concepts. I like that. You can see kind of down here at the bottom. I think the more eyes you have on and the quicker you can get your eyes to the quarterback, the better chance, obviously, you're going to get interceptions and things like that. But you also have to be able to disguise it. When a quarterback can sit back there and know what's coming, it's a little bit harder for those guys. Being great tacklers, you got some of those guys that just kind of have that knack when they hit, balls on the ground. And so finding those guys, usually I call them heavy arms. They got the heavy arms as they come through there, and to be able to do it. Another one that I think is really important is great pursuit. So two years ago, so I've been the defense coordinator at Cody now for 2 years. My first year here, we forced 21 fumbles. We only recovered 12. So still 12 is good. That's a good number. But when I'm looking at, man, we missed out on 9 opportunities, right? And you go back and there's about 4 of them where you're going, man, if we'd have just had one guy run into the ball a little bit better, we'd have had 4 more balls easy, right? And some of them, you're not going to recover every single one of them. You get some funny bounces and things like that, but it shouldn't be that low of a percentage either. So that's something that's really important to me there. And then from getting interceptions, I think it's really important to understand route concepts. So we do a lot of stuff with our secondary where we're going to run routes, and then we'll add in a quarterback throwing the ball where they're seeing the routes that they're going through, and then they're breaking on that ball once they get their eyes back to the quarterback. And that's a really important part for us to get those interceptions. Last year we had 14. My first year we had 13 in 10 games. Last year we had 14 with 2 games left, and we didn't get any in the last 2 games. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we lost those 2 games either. So unfortunately, we had a chance to win conference championship. Had we won those 2 games, it was the teams we played went 1, 2, and we were 3. So we needed to beat one of them, and they all came down to 1-possession games in the fourth quarter. So you think about getting an interception here or there. We only got 1 fumble in one game, and we didn't get any in the other. And to me, that shows why we lost the football game. So All right, so that'll kind of go into our position stuff. And I think at each position, you kind of have to have that mindset of like, what are your priorities to these? What are kind of your mix-up ones, and what are kind of your secondary, hey, fun to kind of add in, but you don't see it a bunch necessarily. I think you want to stick to what you feel comfortable with. I think there's a lot of really good drills that you can teach to help create takeaways. These are the drills when I go through here that I feel have helped us the most. And you got to use what you think is best for you. But then you got to really know how to coach it, really know how to teach it up and that kind of stuff. To me, that's the most important part as you go through it and understanding some of those stuff. So you can see some of these here, and I'm going to go through some of this stuff and kind of tell you how we do it here. So this first one, again, I apologize with the film. I kind of drew these up, and I'm not much of a computer wizard here. But so what we'll do, and we kind of we'll actually start this sometimes without even a defender. So normally our first progression of that is we're just working a D lineman, working towards the quarterback. We know we're not going to get there. We're watching that quarterback. As soon as that hand goes up, we will try to take our hand and match where his arm is throwing that thing. See if we can get the ball, get our hands on it to where we can do that. We usually use tennis balls actually when we do this. So it's a really small target. So you've really got to watch, and then eventually we'll progress into using like a foam football because we're not very far away. We want to make sure we don't hurt a finger. And if you can't, just throw the ball a little softer. That'll work as well. But you work on matching that thing, and then eventually we add in, okay, now we got this offensive lineman, right? And we'll go off of his move. So he goes back, our D lineman will just work into him like, hey, I got beat, right? We play some really good offensive linemen. We're not always going to win to get a sack. But, hey, we're beat. Now we're holding up. And now we know we're not getting there. We're kind of spying that quarterback back here. Hand goes up, our hand goes up and matches it. And we just use whatever hand is there. Key for this is don't jump, especially if you are in contact. Now, the clip I actually have, our guy jumps, but he gets cut and defeats the cut. So that's part of it. But if you are in contact with that O-lineman, you don't want to jump because you go to jump, you're going straight back, and it's not going to end well from that standpoint. And then we will add a cut defeat because our guys get cut quite a bit as you kind of work through it. And so where you kind of see this come through in a game situation. So if you're watching this DN here up top, right? So you're watching him, he goes, he gets cut, he beats it, right? And so he gets his hand down on there. I've heard this kind of go slow sometimes when it gets kind of choppy, so I'll kind of slow down here. But again, you're watching this guy right here as he works himself through this part, goes in, gets cut. Okay, at that point, you can see his eyes transitioning to the quarterback, knowing, okay, I beat that block. I'm probably not going to get there unless he's really dropping back. He looks like he's ready to throw. Well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about gaining any more ground. Find where that ball is. Match your hand up. There it goes. Ball gets tipped up. Now, unfortunately, we don't pick this one. This guy actually does a really good job. You can see him, the receiver, holding our guy, which is legal for us once that ball is tipped. So it's a smart play by that wide receiver. But if he's not, man, that could be a big play for us going the other way. And so that's really, really big play for us from that standpoint. I think we've actually gotten 2 interceptions off of this, but this is the best one in terms of showing our D lineman, man, that's a great block defeat. Not going to get there. Get that ball up in the air, though, as you kind of work through it. Okay. Next one here now is our sack and strip. These are our 2 top ones that we do with our guys. So here we're going to have our quarterback in the pocket. We'll go from behind him and towards him, or looking at him. So we will, again, go off this offensive lineman's movement. We will work a pass rush move. We start by, we don't even act like we're going to block as an O-lineman to now we throw our hands. So we really have to work to where, hey, we want you to actually try to block him. And we want this thing to get competitive with these guys as they work themselves through this part, make them work a little bit. And then we talk more so as we work ourselves around to that quarterback, having the proper aiming point. Okay, having that proper aiming point. We don't want to be too far in front where he can spin around us, right? So if we're coming around here and we kind of take this path to that front shoulder, a good quarterback can spin out and beat us. So we aim for right in that middle. Okay, that's where we say, because if we go too far back, let me delete that part. If we come too far back up to that back, now he can step up and duck out. Now, if we're going to err on one side, we want to err on the side that he has to step straight up, because if we have our other D linemen doing their job, we should be there, but we aim right for the middle of his back with our pass. Okay. And then the things we talk about, so I got as he's getting ready to throw this thing, it's here. If we are coming from behind him, we want to aim at his elbow. Okay, so we don't aim for the ball because that ball changes planes pretty regularly when he's throwing that thing. So we want to aim for that elbow as we hit that thing and bounce that thing down. The other part of it is he's got this thing out here and we hit that elbow, again, most stationary, so it increases our chances of hitting it. That's a good chance that ball's popping out because as we club down on that thing pretty violently, right, that ball is going to pop out. If we are coming at him, okay, we're aiming from elbow up to the ball. Now we can keep that ball in our path because as we're chasing him, now we have a better shot to kind of get our hand in front as that ball's coming across our face. Does that make sense? And I have a clip of it that I think you guys will be able to see, and that'll make a little more sense for you as we go through if that didn't as we work it there. But we will do both of those parts of it. So you watch it from this view here. We'll go to the tight. I got some notes on here. Sorry about that. Thought I got rid of those ones. Okay, so you're going to watch, again, this guy. So first off, he does not do a great job of getting out of his lane, right? He should be over here. So that's not very good. But he doesn't quit our end. And here's another reason why we say, hey, you're beat, get your eyes to that quarterback. One, obviously you can, match that quarterback arm like we just talked about, but he can also close this gap down. Eyes are there, we're beat. Okay, well, he closes it down, so now he works himself out. And here it is again, same thing. We still, because we're coming from the back, it's slightly different. It's not a pure sack, but we're still aiming. We want to take our arm across where that elbow is. You see get his hand right here. I know our official's right in the way. That ball now is out on the ground. Again, we're violent coming from behind him. We get that hand on the ground. We still secure the tackle, right? That's important for us as well. Now the ball is on the ground. Although we wish this guy would have recovered it because he might have ran it for a touchdown, but you can't get mad at a guy for not knowing that, though. So he's got to get the ball when he can. But that brings up the other thing. We will also add in a lot of scoop and score stuff to ours. So when we do this, sometimes we'll have it in there. We always tell our guys, if your back is to the offense, you just fall on that thing. If your back is to the offense. So let me rephrase that here. So if your back is to where we're going, to where you can't see these offensive players coming at you, you just fall on that thing. If you know there's nobody around, now you can try to scoop and score that thing as you go. When we talk about scooping it, the biggest thing we try to do, if we're on the ground, we want to bring it in to us as close as possible, and then we're going to curl up in a ball. So you see him curl up, right, protecting that thing, turning his back, and then we tell our next guy, whoever's getting close to it, you better dive on and protect his front. Right, now here they don't do it. They're down on the ground, and I have a clip later, but you can see them starting to get into this spot where, hey, we're going to protect him, and it's not a melee. They don't have to quite get in there. But that is an important part for us to be able to recover those things as well. Okay, and then we'll watch this from this view here. But now you're going to watch this guy working himself around. Okay, and so here he does end up running himself back, but you can see this hand working himself out, aiming for that ball to the elbow, so he actually doesn't get the ball, gets the elbow, ball flies out. Now they end up calling this an incomplete pass. You can watch it now back to this wide view here, right? So you can see it there. You can see that hand right on that elbow. That's where we're going. Now, this one ends up being a forward pass. That's okay. We've also had times where that exact same thing has happened, and they've called it a fumble, and we've so it's not necessarily a takeaway on this exact play, but that is the concept of what we are trying to get to. And you can see our guys, right? They're going. We tell them, if you see the ball on the ground, you're going to get it, right? This guy's coming full speed. These other guys are going, right? It's starting to blow. That's fine, and we don't have to go overboard. But until we know for sure that they're blowing that thing dead, we pick it up, right? And so you never know when that ball is going to be on the ground. And get it. You see some other guys are quitting, but we're not. We're going there, right? Which we would have recovered it. Again, they called it incomplete, which is the right call. But, all right, second guy in. So this is one when that ball carrier's already wrapped up, and you're that defender coming at it. Right? So as we're working ourselves into this, here he's hung up to it. We are trying to find that ball. And when we find the ball, we are trying to find what we call the tip. So the tip of this ball, if you see it here, we're taking our hand right on top of this thing on our first one, and then we will try to grab his elbow underneath. And we will work to pull that thing away, get space there and rip that ball out. That's kind of the method and the teaching points that we talk about. We mix in a lot of different angles with this. Our guys coming laterally, kind of working themselves back. But then we also talk about if you've got the guy wrapped up, right, and that ball's near you. So let's say the ball carrier, and he's got it like this, and I've already on him, and now another guy hits him from this side and has him wrapped up. Now let's change our mindset. Hey, we know he's got him wrapped up. Let's rip that out, which is what you're actually going to see here of one of our defensive linemen. Go to the tight view here. Sorry, is that film really choppy for you guys?
No, it's okay. We can.
Okay. Okay. So here you're going to watch this guy right here, and then I believe it's this guy that gets involved in on the tackle as well. That kind of helps him work that way. I'll pause it here as we get closer. Yeah, so we get a little bit of some flow here. He works himself off, all right, working himself off on the block, which we actually will also teach a punch. You'll see this. So as he's coming off of it, he's going to punch first if he has a clear view of that ball to go to wrap up. So it's kind of a 2-in-1 drill here for this guy. So he does that. If you don't get it, now you're working to wrap it up. But here comes our safety to in. Now he knows, all right, he just got stood up. I know I got some help. I can now try to rip that ball out. And you're going to see this arm. You're going to see that thing pull, right, to where he's got himself right on that tip to the wrist of the offensive guy. And there goes the ball on the ground. And we got guys going to chase that thing. Again, there now you see a little better of that cover up. We're in a little bit of a mess, so you go through this part with our scoop versus our scoop and score. So, hey, ball's on the ground. We get it. They're pursuing, thinking that ball's going out. He recovers it. Now you're going to see 44 dive right on top because now there's a good chance that there can be a pile. And the more bodies we get that they can't get to the ball, there's no chance for them to be able to rip that thing out underneath the pile. If you get under there, man, you never know what's going to happen. And so let's cover him up, help protect so that offensive lineman couldn't go get him. And so those are also clips when you watch that clip. Those are going to be plays that I'm going to call it out. Hey, we got this ball. It's a great play by this kid, right? But we're going to say, hey, 44, Manny, that's a great job. And that's exactly what we're talking about in terms of covering him up. So the punch, that's what we were talking about as you're engaged on this block here. That guy's coming across, and we're just punching down with that ball, club it down, however you want to call it. But we're trying to punch down on that ball, and then we're going to wrap up with that backhand. So it's one of those situations, hey, we're not hitting this guy squared up. Okay, we know we're not going to get him squared up, but let's punch violently. That punch coming down should also help us wrap him up, and then we're wrapping back up around with that backhand. Okay, this one, we don't get a bunch of fumbles, but again, like you saw that last one, we punch him, kind of slows him down, gets him turned, and now we're able to get in there, gets us in a good position to be able to get that ball out. Okay. Punch or slam. This is one now where you're chasing after the guy, right? And he's going to the ground, or he's about to go to the ground, and you can see that play. So ball is low, so you can see it down here. Sorry, you can't see me there as well. So ball's down low. Okay, we're going to slam this thing right over the top, try to punch it out. If he's got it up high or loose, right, he's trying to wiggle for room. Now we're punching. We say we want to take that fist, punch the ball right in the middle if we can. That is our aiming point as we are punching, punch that thing out. Get the ball on the ground to where we can go and get that thing. And again, this one and the first, I should call it slam, I guess, since we talked about punch being different this way. But between those two, we do these ones maybe every other week. So this is not a huge one because we don't see ourselves in that opportunity as much as defensive linemen. But we're still going to mix it in so that if that opportunity does happen, we can do it. We've practiced it. Our guys know, the technique that we want them to do. Okay, and so this one actually is more of a, let me go to this view here. And this is, here we go. So it's hard as we go through this because it's late. And this is actually an outside linebacker runner 3-4, but he's kind of our hybrid defensive end on this side. Okay, and so he does this. Here is where you can see now his head's down on that tackle. That's not great. But you watch this punch. Now, this is also a little bit different, right, technique in terms of where he's at. But because we've worked this technique, you can use it in other situations. So you see his arm coming through with that punch. Also, there comes the arm on that punch. It brings that little more power, some heavier arms. This is a quarterback trying to run an option. He's got the ball hanging out here. If we're violent with it, we got a good shot at it. There's the ball on the ground. Now go and get it. Try and cover each other up. You can push. You got to be careful of pulling people off. That's a penalty for us. But okay, and then this is on here to talk about the scoop here. So if we can scoop it and score it, we talk about bending at the knees, bending at the hips, get our chest over it. We almost kind of like if you're an infielder for baseball. But that's what we talk about, kind of seeing that thing, getting it out in front of us and tucking it up. But we also talk about, hey, if you bobble that thing, now you got to get on it, or if it's a situation where you can't. Now, again, we get lucky right here, right? We don't do anything to cause this fumble. It's just a bad exchange, okay? But you watch, we're going to grab it, pull it in, and turn it as much as we can away in that cradle. So here he goes, full extension, has it. Now try and turn away, which he should turn away. He turns into him. But then again, here's our other guy leaning on top of him, covering that up. If he opens it up, here comes our other guy again, making sure that nobody else can get involved in that part of it. And that's a huge part of recovering fumbles. I truly believe that. Okay. Linebacker drills. Coach, how much time do I have? I want to make sure I get through most of these here. So,
how long do you want to take? Well, I have time.
Okay. All right. No, that's fair. That's fair. And some of these are going to be, as you can see, some of these things now are going to be similar to what we did, like sack and strip and a match QB arm and the scoop and scores on everyone, because that's important stuff we talk about with all of our guys and all of our drills. We try to add that in. But we mix them up a little bit, right? So it's going to be second man in now. We saw how we did that with our defensive line. Now we do it a little bit differently. So we will take our running back, put him in the middle. He will hold the ball like this here as he is working. Run vertical, just start running, and then he'll tuck the ball one way or the other. Okay, and so as he does that, if the ball's away from you, you go to wrap up. You might swing hard at that punch across that we talk about a lot with our tackle. Okay, but you're punching there, and if the ball's to you, again, now you're going. You want to get one hand on this side on the tip, and you want to grab that elbow if possible. All right, and pull that thing up and across, and now that ball's out in the ground. We are out in the air in space, and now we got a shot to get that thing out of there, to get that ball on the ground. So we just mix up our angle. And again, on all of these, you can change the angle however you see fit. I think that's one of the things I like about it is we can do it running forward just to start it. We can do it running sideways, however it may be. We can do all sorts of different angles to work on that, but it's the same concept at the end of the day to work on getting that ball out on the ground, okay? Punch and strip, we do this one. We need to be better at this. So all of this one is, and guys, this is a pretty common one. Ball carriers running in front, so it's like you're chasing the guy down, right? If you see space, again, it's punch, aiming with that fist right in the middle of the ball as we're trying to punch that thing away. If you see low ball, so now it's down here, right? So that ball's down. He doesn't have the proper protection of that thing. Now we want to club down on it, grab there, and pull back. Okay, that's our strip. So we want to grab it and pull it back. Okay, we don't necessarily twist as much. We feel as we pull this thing back, that will naturally open that thing up to get that ball on the ground. So that's what we do. And then on this one, what we started to do towards the end is we would add a defender up here, and he would do the scoop and score, right? So he's going down, bending at the knees, at the waist, keeping that chest over the ball, scoop it up, tuck that thing away, and go. If you bobble it once, you get one time. You bobble it once, you're just falling on that thing, cradling it into you. Okay, and this isn't quite the same angle that we have, but again, you can change the angle. We drew it up as you're driving, but sometimes you can draw, going this way. And this one, this guy makes a great play. You're watching 30 here. Okay, so this is a 4th and 1 situation. Okay, so he comes across, the guy kind of gets picked up, but here he goes as he's going. Oh, you can kind of see now. Some of it too is his arm is going there, so it's kind of that combination of that punch here, but it gets a little bit wide. He's slamming down on that ball, force that thing out on the ground. There it is. Again, here we go. We got a bunch. Now that one, we got just a bunch of guys, so you don't really worry too much about turning there. But as they kind of work through that thing with that violent punch, see that ball out, give yourself a shot at it, get that ball back. Okay, rake, it's not really a takeaway. This is more about getting some incompletions, but we do this sometimes. We mix it into our circuit as well. So our rake concept here, as we kind of work through this, so our wide receiver, which is our own guy usually, just runs with the ball, has it in both hands, and then he will pick the angle, up high, low, whatever it is. We're running behind. We're going to secure that tackle with our off hand, wrapping it around. I always talk to our guys about making sure you wrap it, around their waist. If you get it up on your shoulder, whether it's a ticky-tack pass interference call or not, you're going to get called almost every time. And that's just, they see it. You're starting to turn more. You keep it on the waist, you can get away with that a little bit more. And then the keys that we talk about with our rake drill, we talk about trying to take away what I call their catch arm. So when we talk about that, we're saying whichever hand this guy could make the catch with one hand, that's the one we want to try to take away. Okay, so if he's going this way, ball's out here, right? He wants to get this hand. This is the ideal hand we want to get. It's his catch hand, right? Are you always going to get that? No, but that's what we want to try to take away. Our aiming point is for where the ball and his hands are going to meet. I don't like to swipe down. I think it increases your chances of missing the ball. So we talk about matching. So if his hands go like this, so if this is his hand, as my hand comes in, it should be right on top of his hand. And then we talk about pronating our hand out. So if the ball is coming this way, okay, we want to pronate this hand out in front as we bring ourselves down. It gives us more surface area with our hand to hit that ball. And as we pull away, if we miss the ball, we are trying to grab that near wrist and rake it away from his body, right? So that's kind of that process. And so normally when we start it, we say, hey, it's all out in front, right? Or hey, it's here. And we usually put ourselves in a position that we can get the catch hand. And then we'll move to where, hey, now you know where it's going, but you can't get to the catch hand, right? So now it's here, but we're coming from underneath, and so we've got to take this arm away. That's what we got to do, right? And so we'll work through it that way. And then we'll progress that to now the offensive guy has any option to do whatever he wants to do with it, okay? And so we do this with both our DBs and our linebackers. Again, this isn't necessarily an interception for a takeaway, but I do think it's important in terms of being able to play the pass and that kind of stuff. So sometimes you do get some balls that are bounced up and you end up getting a pick out of it as well. Okay. And then with our linebackers, and this one is a little more specific for us because of how we teach our linebackers our drop. So we drop off of the wide receiver. So on the pass, this guy is going to get his eyes to the wide receiver once he reads pass, and then he is going to work to him. Okay. So if he goes vertical, our leverage is make him go outside over the top, sink underneath. So he'll do this. If he goes out, we look for one coming in, and then we get our eyes back to the quarterback, right? If he goes inside here, let me delete that there. If he goes inside here, like on this one, we're working in what we call it is squeeze and play quarterback's eyes. So when we say squeeze, we're taking about 2 shuffle steps with him inside, getting our eyes to the quarterback. If he's staring him down, we're going to carry him a little bit more. If he's not looking him down, now we're going to zone off, look for this area here that's coming. If he runs a little hitch route, we're going to sit with him, get our eyes to the quarterback. Again, staring at him, we're going to stay with him. If not, we're going to get some depth, making sure that we're not getting caught by anything behind us at about that 10 to 12-yard range. Okay, so we'll start off usually and tell our wide receivers, hey, it's going to be a hitch. Hey, it's going to be an in or an out or a vertical. So they know, but so we're kind of taking twofold. We're working our actual drop progression, but then we're also going to add in that interception with us there at the end as you kind of go through it. And these are a couple situations now where you see those guys doing that. So, right, he sees 2 go out, so he knows, hey, I should look for 1 coming inside. Now I know he's running. I mean, the ball's already being released, but now I know because I'm in this position, open it up. There we go. We open it up. There's the ball and go. And we will, as we get better at this, we will do the same thing. We will throw that ball based off of what we know that route is coming before he even looks back so that, hey, you got to look and there it is. And it's happening like that. Go and make that play, right? And so that'll be one of those things that we do a lot with those guys there. And then breaking in front of this guy, we kind of add this in. This one is kind of an add-on a little bit to those drops. So we will do a drop and then, hey, we find this guy, now we're in a position, let's break in front of him here to go and get that thing. So just so we have an idea, or we'll start it with, hey, we're just running, we're in a good position, break in front and pick it. All right, so now we're just working. We know we're in that good spot. We can break in front and pick it. Then we will also kind of combine this break in front and our rake drill as well. So now we'll throw the ball. So we'll be standing on this side throwing the ball to him. And sometimes you're going to be able to break in front and pick it. Sometimes you're going to have to rake at it, but getting those guys to understand when they can and can't. And during this time, I'm okay with them challenging it and maybe being wrong. Like, hey, I break in front, I don't get it, every once in a while. Because you got to challenge yourself in practice if you think you're going to be able to do it in a game, right? And so I'd much rather let one of our own guys catch the ball than an opponent. So mixing that in a little bit with practice and that stuff, but I think that also then gets you into a game and it gains that confidence of these are situations I can jump in front, these are ones I can't jump in front on it. Okay, so here now you're going to watch this guy on this one. All right, and so he sees he's coming inside, and this one's a slightly different in terms of completely breaking in front, but again, we will change our angles on these a lot as we go through. So we start off very basic, and then we progress as we get better. So he sees him coming inside. That's the guy he's dropping off of. Well, there's no need to keep running out. Let me turn back, get in front of him, right? So I'm breaking in front of that guy, staying in front there. Now I can go. Now that's a heck of a play. This guy was also an All-American, so sometimes you just are good. Okay, but that's kind of that same concept of what we are trying to accomplish with that. Okay, sack strip. So now we will work with the backer because we do bring our backers a decent amount. So we will change these angles up where we're working a move. Hey, we're running at this guy. Now we got to work that move to work that sack. And again, those guys go through that. Whatever you want to teach for your technique, go for it. But then we work the same rules now as we get through with that quarterback arm as we do with our D linemen. We're just switching up our angles with these guys as we're going through. And then we'll add in same concept. Now we're matching the quarterback's arm, right? So now, hey, as I'm blitzing, I'm going to get my hand up there, match that quarterback's arm, and I know I'm not going to win this block. And so here you see it actually out of 30 here off his blitz. Yeah, we don't necessarily get an interception off of this, but we're running our blitz. He gets through. Okay, hey, I'm not going to get there. Bam, get my hands up, get an incompletion. This is a 3rd and 3. To me, yeah, we didn't necessarily get a takeaway, but we're forcing a punt, so it's we don't have as good a field position, but we get that play versus if you watch this thing from the wide, it was going to be a big play. Okay, then our DBs. Okay,
Coach?
so as you go through with these guys, what was that?
We've got one question, maybe that fits very good to the last drill you talked about.
Okay.
Linebackers. Coach asked, what are your favorite pass rush blitz moves for your linebackers? Yeah,
so we tell our guys if they see a running back, we tell them to try to bull rush them. Now, the thing you got to be careful with that is they can get cut, and for us, they can. So you got to be a little leery with there. But if we get one-on-one with a running back, we want to try to bull rush him for the most part. And then we will work a handover. So what a handover is that guy shoots his hands. We aim to hit the wrist. So we want to hit that wrist, take it away, and then punch our arm over it. I don't like to swim. I'm not a big fan of that myself, especially with our linebackers. I just think when you go up here, you're opening up too much here for a good offensive lineman to get you. So it's going to be that, and then we teach our dip and rip. So now here's hands come out. We're going to pull this wrist. Again, the big thing that I try to tell our guys when you grab that wrist is you want to try to grab it hard enough and violently enough to try to turn their shoulders. And now you're going to rip up underneath that thing, and so some of that just depends on your level, right? If you feel you got an lineman that's really low, we'll do your punch over. You might not beat him with that rip. You feel like he's really set up high. Now I can dip up underneath that part of it. So those are really the 3 things that we teach our guys as we kind of go through that part of it. So we just feel those are the best. So right here, that's not very good technique, right? He's high. If he rips under this thing, he might have actually got the sack, but he gets high, so he gets pushed off of his point. Does that make sense there?
Yes, Coach.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. DBs. So now we'll go through, as you can see those drills as you kind of look at them here. So rake, exact same thing that we talked about with our linebackers. So we do it with both of those guys. We do it a little more with our DBs because we're usually in that spot a little more. But we work it with all of our guys. This is one that we do with that. We do the second man in, and again, we're switching up different angles as we kind of work ourselves through that. We'll also sometimes have that guy hold the ball out, so now we're punching at it versus just trying to do our normal strip technique, to kind of work through different stuff. Punch and strip, again, same concept that we did with our linebackers. So you can see some of the stuff you can do with different stuff. And so one thing that we've gone to is we have one coach that hey, I feel really confident I know how to coach this punch or strip up, right? Great. You're going to do it when our DBs come to you, and you're going to do it when our linebackers come to you, right? And so you can do some of these drills where you say, hey, you're going to be the expert in this drill. You're going to be the expert. So instead of, and that's why I like circuits, because now instead of me having to teach or talk through, 7 different ones, I know, hey, these are the 2 drills that I'm going to become an expert on with our D linemen. These are the 2 drills I'm going to become an expert on with our linebackers, our DBs. And obviously, sometimes depending on your staff size, you don't always have those luxuries. We have enough that we can have, our D line guys going to do these ones, our linebackers are this one, and our DBs, which is me, going through these ones. So we can kind of really mix and match that to where you don't have to be, I don't have to know every single one of them, right? I just need to know, hey, I need to be really good at these 2 or 3, and the other guy is, and now all of a sudden you got, guys that really know how to coach up a total of 6 drills. Well, man, we should be pretty good then at getting some takeaway. Okay, and then this is one that we do a lot of, DBs, and we will also mix up our angle on this one. So here we will angle pedal, this is what we call it. So just angle pedal it back and open it up, or our corners will shuffle, bail. We're acting like these are our 2 wide receiver threats. Okay, so when we do that, we want to midpoint it. I will usually stand, here or here, especially for our corners, and then with our safeties, I'll stand in the middle, because that's more of that angle, a little bit of what they're going to see, not completely, but we can mix and match that. So we get there, now we're working, we read front hand off. If I turn my shoulders, we continue our weave that way, our angle pedal there, but we don't just open and go. But as soon as that front hand comes off the ball, so we're sitting here, we see this happen, we better be breaking on that ball. And I tell our guys that are rushing the quarterback, if this ever happens and he comes back and he sits and can make an easy throw, that's on our pressure, right? So he takes that front hand off and we go to break on this. Well, now he brings it back in, and he's able to go and do that and turn back here and make an easy throw without somebody in his face. That's too long. Now, we also have to make sure you communicate. We do it. We played one quarterback last year that could do that, and so we had to be a little more patient before we did completely open. But you talk about that in game week. Again, we don't play that many quarterbacks that can do that. So we're able to break off of that front hand. So that's really important. So we'll do that, and then we'll also go on the backside of it too. So we'll start on top of them, right? Because that's normally where we're going to be. And so this one is just more so to get that concept of split these dudes and now work off of whichever way I'm turning and break off of that front hand. Then we'll add in now our DBs up on top. Now we're working this way, breaking down, or hey, we're playing cover 2 at the safety, working over the top of him and kind of playing off of those routes. So you're going to see this one. You're going to watch our safety here. This guy right here, 45, as he works himself through this. So here he's going to go work his divider, right? Hey, I know we call it divider just because we talk about it off of these guys. We're playing cover 2. So he's thinking, hey, these 2 are both giving me a vertical release. You can see his eyes on them right away, just kind of like what we talk with our backers. You can see those eyes, right? Eyes on him right away to know the route. Then let's get our eyes back to that quarterback, right? So now he's starting to see this guy break in. He can slow himself down. Eyes are playing quarterback. Let me see if I think you can see it a little better from this angle here. Oh. Yeah, so you see him getting out there. Now he's breaking. He knows there. He can get his eyes on him, ball, front hands off, go get it. Now, it also is a great job by this guy, right? Because he's got to throw that ball high. Okay, because if he doesn't throw it high, this guy's picking it. And that's also part of understanding that defense. There we go. Now, it's not a great looking catch, but he gets that thing tucked away and running for a pick. And then here it is again. Now we're playing kind of that middle third, right? So this guy is getting out of there so he doesn't have to. We talk a lot about playing your threats versus playing technically we're playing cover 3. But if you only got one threat in there, work towards him. Cheat to him is what I could say. And then we got 2. Now we got a midpoint play off of eyes. Okay, so as you watch this one, he's going to be coming over here. You barely see him, actually, I don't think, till late because, hey, this is my only threat. Now there's that ball's off. Now I'm driving in front again. This guy didn't use the great technique. I want those hands out in front to go catch that thing, but he gets it caught here. At the end of the day is the most important part of it. And then we're going that way. And this one, buddy breaks, I really like this one because it works transition and playing on it. So we have both DBs. They're going to backpedal this thing up, backpedal it up. Coach is standing here, looks this way, so shoulders turn. They're both breaking here. The guy that is furthest away from it becomes the defender. So he's breaking on this ball. So now you're working on actually transitioning out of your break. And then this guy will either break in front of it or rake it. So now you also got to think a little bit more. And so this is kind of more of an advanced one. It takes us a little while to get to this one as we kind of work ourselves through that process. And then we're working on that. So now, again, you're breaking off of a route. So it's really kind of good in terms of man-to-man, but also good off of your zones and understanding where your routes are going. And then you got to make a decision. Can I break in front of this thing or can I just have to rake it, right? And then the break in front's the same as what we do with those other guys. Okay, but here's kind of a good one in terms of it's a little bit different setup. This guy that drops down here, but this guy's going to go out, so he works out with him. And then now again, hey, I know I can break in front, right? Boom, I don't have to worry about that. I can go pick it, and let's get off to the races. And after this is when this game kind of went downhill for us. At this point, yeah, you can see we scored here to go up 9-7 in the second quarter, and they were all defensive points, but unfortunately we didn't win this game, so not as cool at the end. All right, so that's kind of a lot of that technique stuff that we do. Does anybody have questions off of any of that stuff? I'm trying to, can I pull up that chat? Yeah, does anybody have any questions off of any of that stuff there?
I don't think so, Coach. Maybe let's see.
No, I wish I had those more of that film so I could really walk it through all of that stuff. But in the fall we will have it again, and I'll make sure I keep it this go round. So too, if you feel like, man, hey, I really like this drill and I've been trying to do it and I don't know if I'm doing it right or whatever it is, man, don't feel bad to reach out. I will answer that. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. I think that's a topic like I told to the beginning that we are all talking about. But I think from my standpoint of view, I never coached it that much, and I think you gave us coaches some really good techniques and drills and ideas what we can easily implement into our practices. And I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
That was great. We've got one question. How much time you dedicate each drill in practice?
Yeah, so when we do our circuit, for about 8 to 10 minutes. And so we have 3 groups in our circuit is how we go through. So about 3 minutes, roughly each one. But we are going through there now. We have the ability to have 2 groups going at each one. So that's a little misleading maybe at that point. But it allows us to have the time to really go through there. Now, I don't care if they get 7 reps necessarily. I want them to get 2 good reps. That's always my goal when we go through our circuit. I want you to get 2 really good reps, and I want to be able to coach it up. I don't want it to just be, hey, fire through, and like, well, hey, we got 10 reps, and why can't we get this to translate over to games? Well, are those reps good or not? That's important to me, right? If they're good, give me 2 reps. And then that's going to transition over into being there on a Saturday. So that's kind of what we do with it there. And then when we do it by position, we do about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the day. But then also a lot of times our guys will add in some of this stuff to their own individual. So we get about 20 minutes of individual most days. And so our guys can add that in. Like I said, sometimes we'll do a scoop and score with our D-line, or, hey, I'm doing I'm actually doing like a W drill or what we call our bust off footwork drill with our DBs. Well, I'm going to add in a throw in the front, right? So we're still catching that ball, or we'll do some deep ball stuff too. And so we'll mix them in there. And I think those are good too. The more you incorporate that, even in your normal drills, just your everyday drills. And like, I know our linebackers, sometimes they'll be doing their stance and starts. Just randomly, our linebackers coach will throw a ball out on the ground, right? Hey, we got to go scoop and score that thing, or go and get it depending on where it's at, and fall on it, that kind of stuff. So.
Okay, I think we've got another question.
Yeah.
About I guess when to scoop and score and when to fall on the ball. What are the keys you will give your players?
Yep. So for us, if you can see, so we tell them this applies more so to our DBs especially, but like if you're coming towards the offense, right? So I can see everybody out in front of me, and I know I have space, I can scoop and score, right? If I am close to the sideline, I am pulling on that thing and bringing it in, no matter what, okay? Because as that gets close, we don't want to bobble that thing at all. We want to grab and pull it back in towards the play. And at least if we miss it, then it gives a chance for one of our teammates to get the ball. And so that's important for us with it there. D lineman, basically if it's a sack and it's going back towards our end zone, that's when you can scoop and score it. Otherwise, you're pretty much falling on that thing all the time. And then linebackers, it's kind of in that mix. If you're in the box, like when you're inside the tackle box and that ball's on the ground, you are just falling on it. At that point, you're falling and going into our fetal position, get the ball. If you're out in space and you know you feel comfortable with where your surroundings are, you can scoop and score at that point. So it's really kind of based off of, do I have a good feel of who's around me? If I don't, when in doubt, fall on that ball, get in the fetal position. At the end of the day, I'd much rather get the ball back than risk scooping it up and we bobble it around and now we don't get the ball. And we had that actually happen. We had two guys and they actually ended up fighting each other over the ball. And it was on a third down, and on the fourth down, they punted and we fumbled the return. And they got the ball back. And I'm like, holy cow, we had two dudes just take the ball away from each other. And now we're back on defense. So, when in doubt, get on that ball, and that's the most important part.
Okay, awesome, Coach. Do we have another question? If not, I really want to thank you for your time, Coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gave us a lot of ideas to make the game better over here, to develop as coaches, develop our teams, and that's a great thing we can do during these times with no practices and all the countries are shutting down. Yeah.
And I think that the nice thing when you watch a lot of those is you really don't, the second man in can get a little dangerous if you don't have a lot of pads on, but the rest of them you can really do pretty close to at least a part of it without having to have pads on, so depending on your limitations or some of that stuff. And again, I don't think you have to do all of those. Again, I'm fortunate enough because it's me and 5 other coaches on defense when we get to practices, right? So we have the ability to really break this thing down. If you don't have that, then hey, focus on 2 or 3 drills that you think are really good and fit what you do, and you can coach. Focus on those, and and then as you get more comfortable with it, you can start to add in a few little nuances here or there, changing the angles or things like that.
Okay, great, Coach. So thank you very much. I hope we stay in contact. Stay safe during this time, and have a nice day, Coach.
Thanks. Yeah, if anybody needs anything, don't hesitate to reach out. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye, Coach.
Yep. See ya.